In a story of wars, castles, combat tournaments, and one-man armies, here's how I survived the 100 days of the medieval RPG Mount & Blade II Bannerlord. Our story starts in the land of the north, just outside the town of Varcheg, where we join a combat tournament with an extremely expensive helmet for the winner. The tournament will have 4 rounds, with the first one being throwing axes in a solo 4-way battle. We have a few axes thrown at us, but manage to dodge before our opponent runs out of ranged ones and moves on to the melee going on over there, leaving us time to throw one at them before scavenging for more axes. When the winner of that fight comes over to fight us, we hit him with the throwing axe and pass the first round. In the second round, we have a 2v2 where one member is mounted with a sword and the other is on foot with a spear. Starting off, we block the first horse charge and then dismount to help our teammate. After taking him down, we pick up the spear and chase the remaining enemy. After finally taking him down, we move to the second to last round, and it's the same loadout, so we go for the same strategy. This time, the spearman takes much more time to take down, before we take their spear and proceed to hunt down the horseman. In the final round, it's a 1v1 against our former teammate, who just so happens to be the king of the entire Sturgian Kingdom of the North where this tournament is taking place. With axe throwing being the name of the game, we throw a few axes, but we run out of ammo, so we quickly scavenge for an axe whilst under fire to throw. With that, we won the tournament, and acquiring a helmet so expensive that no one this poor has any business owning. I debated selling it, but decided to keep it. It could hopefully survive more deadly hits. Whilst gearing up, we bought a very cheap shield to block arrows. Even with the helmet, we're still broke. Adding a grand total of 1 troop to our army, we move on. Dodging some bandit parties looking for free loot, we arrived at another town. Finding nothing in the first few towns, we arrived at a village where the locals had been terrorized by a bandit hideout that had a nice price tag for anyone who could take out the bandit leader, so we decided to give it a try. Arriving at the hideout, we waited until the cover of night to attack. Descending into the battle, we used the element of surprise to ambush the first bandit, alerting the second bandit. Using a shield, we closed the range between us and the second bandit, who we cut down. Sneaking up on another Sea Raider, we cut him down too. The next ambush didn't go as well when the first bandit held up longer than we expected using a shield. Using him as a human shield, we were able to survive the javelins before we took him out and then focused on the remaining 2. Fighting 2-on-1 was tough, and we ended up taking a hit before my shield, which we had spared perhaps a little too much money on, broke. This led to us almost dying before we were able to hit them back and take control. Moving on to the next one, we saw, by far, our biggest challenge. Fighting 4 Sea Raiders together, whilst alone. Ambushing the most isolated one, we quickly picked up his sword, which hit heavier, and moved to take on the remaining 3, who had apparently not heard the scuffle. We charged on and took the first one before he could react, and then dodged a javelin thrown by another one of the bandits. After taking him out, we nearly got hit by another javelin, before actually getting hit by one, so we then retreated. Using some cover, we fought one of them, which let us move on to fight the next. We then scavenged more javelins before taking out the next Sea Raider. When we thought we finished the fight, the Sea Raider boss approached us with his cronies calling for a duel. On a sliver of health, we had no choice but to accept, where we then tried to use the javelins to keep him at bay, but were inevitably overpowered and taken prisoner at the bandit camp. Though captured, we leveled up a number of skills. After escaping, we were quickly cut off by a number of sea raiders. Once we made it to the town, we purchased some javelins to help us fight one against many combat in the future, before leaving the hideout heading east. One day we will return to this hideout. Entering the land of the Mongols, searching for a tournament, we found nothing, so we moved west and found one in the land of the Empire for a neck guard. The first round being a 4 against 1 match, with us receiving a bow, we targeted the horseman. With one teammate finishing him off, we then got charged by a shield man. Taking him out, we attacked the next enemy while the other was distracted. Finally, we took on the last enemy. Surviving that one, we moved into a 4-way fight which we fought using a janitor strategy. Then in another shield 1v1, we passed into the final round. However, with our suboptimal body armor, he was able to take us out in 2 swings. On our journey west, we were ambushed by 5 looters who were in for quite a surprise. Taking out a few with our newly bought javelins at a range, we then engaged the rest of the looters, using javelins to ignore their blocking in close range. With the final one taken out, we received some very cheap loot that we sold in the next town. Going west through the lands of the Empire, we eventually reached the Buccaneers, a culture known for their marksmanship, woodlands, and primal battle tactics. We found a tournament there offering an expensive piece of horse armor. The first round was a 1v1 with both parties having 2-handed swords. The second round was a 4-way 8-man fight where we decided to try a different strategy, allowing us to qualify in the top half of the round by running from the parties until they took each other out, but instead we ended up dying. Though we failed the tournament, we learned we were in the land of 2-handed weapons, so we sold everything we could afford to sell and bought a very cheap 2-handed axe to help us in our battles. On a quest to return to the hideout, we head north, where on our way we get ambushed by 14 looters, looking for an easy kill. With very little skill with our 2-handed weapon, this causes a dangerous situation where we could be captured or even killed. Using our incredibly slow horse, we throw a few javelins to weaken the horde of looters. We then dismount to get some more accurate shots, but while not moving, the looters get a little too close for comfort, so we quickly get back to riding away. We did eventually dismount once more to use our final javelins before facing the horde in melee. We were able to take down a number of them, but in the end there were too many that could outrun us, so we couldn't block all of them. Thankfully, the overhead hit that knocked us out hit our helmet, saving our life. Once captured, the bandits moved around the land before we escaped again. At this point, we gotta be an escape artist. When we make it back out to the town, we notice a tournament going on with a 1-handed axe as a prize. Not that good for our two-handed loadout, but I'm sure it will sell with a good price for our two-handed loadout, so we join. But despite surviving rounds 1, 2, and 3, we eventually die in a shield 1v1, missing out on the prize. Moving on from our failure, we head even farther north, where we were attacked by 6 bandits. With nearly half the numbers of the last attack, these guys wouldn't stand for long. With our opening barrage of javelins, we took them out with minimal damage. After they were gone, we finally hit the last one in melee, defeating them. With the bandits learning no lesson, on our way to fight the Sea Raider boss, 3 minions attacked us. However, they didn't last long at all. With our quest to take out the hideout, we decided it was time to enlist some help. So we headed to the northernmost town in all of Calradia and hired some recruits who didn't seem to be geared very well, and then we bought them some food. After gearing up again, we launched an attack against the bandits. Yes, again, but this time with a team. Charging down the path, we found our first target for the javelin barrage before realizing it was a wooden bullseye, which gave the advantage of surprise to the closest Sea Raider. While slowed down by the throwing javelins, the troops passed me and charged ahead, taking a number of casualties because of their lack of good melee or shields. Back at the front again, I ambushed another bandit, but because of my lack of two-handed skill, we ended up taking a hit before we beat him. For the final charge, I ended up in a ranged shootout with one of the bandits using javelins. Then the Sea Raider decided to rush down the stairs, which caused me to be taken out, though thankfully our troops pulled us out of the hideout. With a small amount of two-handed skill gained, we headed back to the northern town to use our new strategy. We then waited for our health to heal up for our plan before I noticed a tournament, so we decided to join it. With an expensive helmet on the line, though not quite as expensive as mine, we entered the first 4v4 and managed to pick up a shield, helping us out significantly. And with that, we had passed the first round. In the second round, it was a 4-way shield fight that, while still losing, we qualified in the top half, moving us to the next round where, because of our low health, we were immediately taken out and lost the tournament. However, now, it's time to enact our master plan. It starts with training soldiers against small raider parties. Once in battle, we made our best effort to get some experience while minimizing damage to our soldiers. Once there were 2 left, we got 1 in melee and the troops got the other. From that battle, we got some level ups that gave our soldiers some shields and better armor. For our next leveling up adventure, we fight many more Sea Raiders, so we choose to hide behind the rock and wait until the distance is closed, nullifying their shields and javelins. While the battle advances, we ride around on a horse and throw javelins at them. Then we charge our soldiers. I was a bit confused here because at first I thought we somehow shrunk their force by a massive amount, so we took advantage and obliterated them. After destroying them, I realized why it was so easy. They had split their forces around the rock, meaning our weakened troops would have to fight 2 battles. The second battle turned out to be pretty easy though, since we had already defeated the other half. With that, we freed 6 peasants, got a ton of upgrades, and got some loot to sell, along with even more two-handed skill. Using some of the extra money, we bought a good torso armor piece, because the easiest place to die from is being hit in the chest and the head, and we already have the head armor. With all our plans made and gear stock, we approached the hideout yet again. Attacking the hideout, we ambushed the first one in melee, before the next guy got cornered and swarmed on the stairs. We then fought our way through the rest of the guards with a combination of melee and javelins. After defeating all of them, we were confronted by the boss, who had a noticeably smaller amount of troops because of our recent attacks. And with our massive numbers, we were able to beat them. With the bandit camp destroyed and a new army for us, we headed back to the town to recruit more troops to replace the fallen before heading west, where we chased down some bandits, where, unbeknownst to us, a massive army had joined in to help us. In order to maximize experience, our plan was to ride into the middle of the battle and fight as many as possible. Though dismounting had a fair bit of complication when some looters tried to stop me, we were able to overtake them eventually. After getting even more two-handed level, we went south into the Britannian lands, where we managed to find yet another tournament, this time for a fur cape. In the first round it was a large battle where we were given a one-handed melee, so we charged the archers. However, our kick was dodged, leaving us a target and getting knocked out in one hit. Our teammates managed to bring us into the second round, where our teams were now of 1s instead of 4s, and we were also given a two-handed weapon, which we used to win the round by sandwiching our opponent. With the second complete, we moved on to the third round, which was a 1v1 with two-handed weapons, so we used a tree stump to maximize our effect. We were then in the final round against a two-handed soldier, so despite using our best strategy, we still lost the tournament. Now with the larger party, we needed money to pay them, and since we were running out, we needed to chase down some bandit parties. So we just kept traveling until we finally managed to chase one down in Belandia, known for their knights and horses. This time there would be no 100 reinforcements. With all of the battle loot going to us, we charged forward in front of the troops. After a short-lived last stand of the looters, we moved on to the biggest step so far, raiding a kingdom. Because of their small size, we decided to raid Britannia, which meant we would need to find one of their villages that we could defeat. We settled on this one because not only was it surrounded by snow, slowing down the speed of any response, but it was also close enough to the escape, so we would be able to get out after. For our raiding party strategy, we decided to make as close a formation as possible to be as effective as possible while we throw javelins during our advance. Then we went into melee. It appears not that many of our guys actually got promotions from that battle, but with the raid now in progress, we upgraded our skills and kept watch for enemy patrols, which wasted no time in showing up. Because of the nearby terrain, we were unable to outrun them, so we used an escape tactic that ended up costing us a bunch of soldiers. With only 9 left, we quickly moved up north to recruit some more soldiers, but something I didn't expect to happen was a 100-man army sitting inside the city we approached waiting for us. So we lost even more troops, and now we're back down to 2. With our entire army wiped out, we now needed to recruit and train up more members. Speaking of more members, if you like these videos and you want to see more, make sure to like and subscribe. So starting by attacking some looters, the looters were quickly eliminated, and we got a little more loot to fund us. In addition to that, we decided to try winning a tournament. One of these days we will get them, okay? After blitzing through the first round, we were quickly 2v1'd in the next round. Moving west on our way to raid Britannia, we saw yet another tournament. This time we were able to pass the first and second rounds, which left us in the third round 1v1'ing and axe throwing. So we passed into our final round with a valuable armor piece on the line. After winning it with our new armor piece sold, we headed south to find a new raid target. However, we were unable to get close enough to the Britannians for a raid, so we decided to raid the much slower Empire, where after beginning a raid, some mercenaries tried to hunt us down, but some Sturgians decided to help us, so the battle started. As the soldiers moved towards the enemies, I javelined a few cavalry charging at us, and used the shield wall of our soldiers for cover. Then when we got closer, this would happen, where the enemy archers would retreat back, and then before they could shoot much, they would retreat back again. This continued for a while until more and more of them started to die. Eventually, we were able to flip the tides of battle. After winning the battle, we got a few soldier upgrades and a better pair of foot armor, and then headed back to Sturgia so we could prepare again. Once rested, we were chased by hundreds of Empire soldiers, but then we're able to meet up with the 600 Sturgians and target the Empire army chasing us. For this battle, we used the same plan of using the shield wall as cover to advance. We then started throwing javelins from behind the line. We then charged forward, then got hit by an arrow, knocking us out of the fight, letting our troops do the rest. A Upon discovering our battle loot was ridiculously low, we left back to the town to sell the little we had. Finding money for the wages of our soldiers was proving to be pretty hard without any mercenary contract. After a few rounds of searching for a target, we found a battle with the Sturgians fighting more Empire's soldiers, so we helped them. The first thing we did was go on a horseback rampage and throw javelins at them. When we ran out, we headed back and joined the foot soldiers. However, ourselves not having a spear or throwing weapons didn't go too well when we got hit by a horseman, leaving our soldiers to do the rest. After that battle, we only got a few promotions, but we got a ton of loot. However, because we were unable to carry all of it fast enough, we had to ditch a ton of low-value grain to escape a Buccaneer army. Outrunning them, we were able to make it to safety and trade it for money. Our next loop around the enemy territory, we joined a siege with some Sturgians. Our plan was to ride up to the wall on our horse and then wait for the troops to breach the walls. After a while, I realized the battering ram wasn't going to make it to the wall if they kept getting shot by artillery, so I hatched a plan to divert the enemy fire. We got out, and as one man alone began pushing the siege tower. This wasn't nearly fast enough to get to the wall, but it was enough for the enemy to consider me a threat. We were then joined by more troops from the failed ram attack who would help push the tower. And since there were so many of them, I decided to let them do the work while I rode back to the wall. And I tried to lift the siege ladder but got knocked out while trying. Then after that, our army didn't clutch, so we got put in prison. And once we escaped, we immediately headed to the Sturgian lands so we could recover. After recruiting some more soldiers, we trained them against some bandits. We first used up our javelins on the enemy, and then helped out our soldiers on the ground. After winning that, we went down to start a raid on the Northern Empire. I noticed that for some reason there's also a Sturgian force here too, so I guess we got some extra help to push through the battle. Having beat up a sufficient amount of villagers, we focused on heading deeper into the Empire territory, where we found a 600-man army in the middle of a siege that we ambushed with some Sturgians, and immediately went on a horseback assault. Once the troops started squaring up, we dismounted and started fighting. Once the infantry took out our enemy infantry, their archers started shooting at us, so we mounted up and attacked the archers while horseback. It didn't last long, however, because we hit a tree and then got hit by arrows while we couldn't move. With the remaining hundreds of troops winning, we sold a bunch of the battle loot back in Sturgia and got rich. On our next raiding attack, we joined the Western Empire to help us besiege a Northern Empire town. Our strategy is to push as many siege machines as possible at the same time, so we get to work. Once they destroy the first siege machine with their artillery, we distract them by using another. We then tried to climb up the siege tower and see if we could distract some arrows, but the tower got blown up first. It was enough distraction for our soldiers to breach the gate, so we moved up to the castle and joined the fight. Due to the close nature of the battle, we got knocked out pretty quick, though with a massive numbers advantage we won the battle. Once that siege was taken, we moved on to the east to help out the Sturgians in yet another siege. We rode right up to the gate and began swinging our axe to cut it down. However, realizing the troops had already breached the wall, we climbed onto the wall and began fighting. We eventually got cornered where I can't tell the direction I'm blocking in, so we got taken out, but with our superior troops already inside the walls, it was too late for the defenders. With our 100 days almost complete, we decided to dismiss all our troops for one battle the way it first began, with just one warrior. We started approaching the mass horde of peasants who decided to go for the defense for some reason, so we started off with our javelins, which we had to use in between dodging their own projectiles. Once out of javelins, it was just ourselves and an axe in a melee charge. Because there were so many of them, we had to advance very slowly in between dodges. With their teammates fallen, the remaining enemies fled in fear. With our 100 days complete, we reached the end of this story, for now. If you like the long format video, make sure to like and subscribe for more. I will see you later.